The fire crackles slow beside me. Wood pops. Coffee steams in my hands. That sound used to calm me. Still does, most nights. See, brothers, leaving the battlefield doesn't mean the war leaves you. Sometimes the quiet is the real danger, a false safe zone. Because silence can hide things gunfire never could. I learned that the hard way, when a glass tower in Seattle felt safer than any combat zone. Until the breach came. Not with bullets, with arrogance, with one man thinking power meant no consequences. So I'll ask you straight, like we asked each other downrange. When the wall cracks and the truth spills out, do you run to protect yourself? Or do you hold the line and become the protector? A night janitor, a service dog, a billion-dollar deal seconds from betrayal, and a choice that turned instant regret into justice. Sit down, brothers. Stay with me by the fire. Let's talk about survival, faith, and what really keeps a man standing when the world turns on him. The night no one looked down. Cold rain swept across downtown Seattle, needling the glass towers with steady patience. Wind pressed low clouds against the skyline, turning the streets into mirrors of blurred light and restless shadows. Ethan Mercer moved through those reflections like someone already half forgotten. At 40, he still carried the frame of a Navy SEAL. Tall, broad shoulders, a body shaped by years of discipline rather than comfort. The red and black flannel shirt stretched across his back as he walked, damp at the cuffs, darkened by rain. Faded jeans clung to his legs, and his left step landed just a fraction late, a limp most people never noticed unless they were trained to notice patterns. Beside him walked his German shepherd, 5 years old, black and tan, powerful without excess. The dog's black tactical harness sat snug against his chest, the white lettering impossible to miss. Service dog, do not pet. The dog did not pull, did not wander. He matched Ethan's pace exactly. Head level, ears alert, eyes tracking movement without panic. They moved as a unit, the way some things never forgot how to move together. Northline Harbor rose ahead of them, a clean-lined tech complex overlooking Elliott Bay. Glass, steel, confidence. Inside, the lights burned late. Too late. Ethan checked his watch out of habit. Not because he was late. He never was. He simply liked knowing where time stood in relation to him. Midnight shift. Inside the lobby, the air smelled of polished stone and citrus cleaner. The security desk was staffed by a young guard with tired eyes and a posture that said this job was temporary. He glanced at Ethan, then at the dog, then away. Approval without curiosity. That was fine. Invisibility had become a kind of armor. Ethan pushed his cleaning cart toward the service elevators. The wheels squeaked once, softly, then settled into a rhythm. The dog walked at heel without command. Cameras followed them, then lost interest. Most people never noticed the man who mopped floors after midnight. They saw the cart, the uniform, the absence of threat. They did not see the way Ethan's eyes tracked ceiling vents, or how he counted steps between access panels, or how his head tilted just slightly when a sound did not match the shape it should have. On the 42nd floor, the executive level hummed with restrained urgency. Behind a glass wall sat Rachel Hart, 35, lean build, dark brown hair falling past her shoulders in controlled waves. She wore a charcoal blazer over a light blouse, sleeves rolled just enough to suggest effort without disorder. Her face was sharp, composed, but her eyes carried the dull edge of someone who had slept too little and thought too much. Rachel Hart had been CEO of Northline Harbor for less than 2 years. Tonight, She was about to sign something that would define whether she kept that title. The conference table gleamed beneath recessed lights. Documents were arranged with precision. At the head of the table lay a slim tablet displaying the final approval screen for Project Cleardrop. Across from her stood Grant Holloway, 50, stocky, a man built more by boardrooms than movement. His tailored gray suit fit well, but his tie was tight enough to signal impatience. His hair, once dark, had surrendered to gray in controlled surrender. His eyes were sharp, restless, always calculating numbers that did not yet exist. Grant Holloway did not believe in delays. "Every hour we wait," he said, voice clipped, "is another opportunity for the market to lose confidence." Rachel held his gaze without blinking. "Every hour we rush," she replied, "is another opportunity to miss something that matters." Grant exhaled through his nose. Not quite a laugh. "We've audited. We've verified. We've done enough." Behind him stood Caleb Price, 33, clean-cut, soft-spoken, the kind of man whose presence felt helpful rather than demanding. Light-colored shirt, neutral tie. His expression carried concern, not pressure, which made people listen when he spoke. "Rachel," Caleb said gently, "Blue Peak's team is standing by. They're expecting confirmation tonight. If we pause now, it sends a message." Rachel looked at him. Caleb always arrived early, always stayed late. He remembered everyone's coffee order. He framed urgency as service, not force. That, she had learned, could be dangerous. 20 floors below, Ethan stepped out of the service elevator and felt it. Not a sound, not a sight. A rhythm. The faint electrical hum along the hallway did not rise and fall the way it should. The access panel near the executive wing blinked once, then steadied. Too steady. Ethan slowed his cart. The dog's ears shifted forward. Ethan pretended to adjust a mop handle. His reflection stared back at him in the polished wall. Older than he felt, more tired than he allowed himself to admit. 3 years, he thought. 3 years of night shifts, of being ignored, of doing honest work that paid just enough to keep his son, Noah, in a small apartment with good light and a view of a playground. He had promised himself this life would be quieter. Yet here he was, counting pulses in a building that thought it was safe. Ethan glanced toward the glass-walled conference room. He could see Rachel Hart's silhouette, Grant's impatient posture, Caleb's calm hands folded just so. He looked down at the dog. "Easy," he murmured, barely sound. The dog did not move, did not need to. Ethan's chest tightened, not with fear, but with recognition. Whatever was happening upstairs was not scheduled, not logged, not clean. And clean mattered. Ethan pushed the cart forward, back into motion, into invisibility. For now, the moment power slipped. Rain intensified outside, striking the windows harder now, as if the city itself leaned in to listen. Thunder rolled low over Elliott Bay, distant but persistent, the kind that never rushed. Ethan Mercer felt it before he saw it, a tightening in the chest, the old warning signal, the kind that had once kept men alive. He stood in the executive corridor, red and black flannel damp at the shoulders, one hand resting lightly on the handle of his cleaning cart. Beside him, his German shepherd stood steady, black and tan coat gleaming under fluorescent lights, harness snug and clear. Service dog, do not pet. Ethan had learned long ago that warnings were rarely welcomed. People did not like to be interrupted when they believed they were in control. Inside the glass-walled conference room, voices rose. Grant Holloway paced now, agitation bleeding through his polished exterior. His shoes clicked sharply against the floor, each step punctuating his impatience. He gestured toward the tablet on the table like it was a ticking clock. "This delay is unnecessary," he snapped. "We are bleeding momentum." Rachel Hart remained seated, posture straight, hands folded. Her expression stayed calm, but inside, doubt crept in like cold air under a door. She trusted data. She trusted preparation. Yet something about tonight felt rushed, off balance. Caleb Price stood near the wall, arms relaxed, concern etched carefully across his face. He spoke softly, never cutting, never commanding. "Grant," he said, "let's keep this professional. We're all under pressure." Grant shot him a look, then turned sharply toward the glass wall, toward Ethan. "What is that doing here?" Grant demanded, pointing toward the corridor. His eyes flicked to the dog, then back to Ethan with open irritation. Ethan did not respond immediately. He had learned restraint the hard way. He kept his voice neutral when he spoke. "Night maintenance," he said. "Scheduled," Grant scoffed. "In the middle of an executive meeting?" "The schedule doesn't change," Ethan replied evenly. Grant stepped out into the corridor without asking permission. Up close, Ethan could see the tension etched into the man's face. The shallow breathing, the faint tremor in his hands. Grant Holloway was not angry because of the janitor. He was angry because he was afraid. "Move it," Grant said. His hand reached out, not toward Ethan, but toward the dog. The moment stretched. Ethan's heart dropped. "Sir," Ethan said quietly, warning threading his voice, "please don't touch the harness." Grant did not listen. His fingers hooked into the strap, tugging it back as if the animal were a piece of misplaced furniture. Instant regret arrived without drama. The harness snagged against the metal handle of a utility door behind them. The tension snapped the latch open with a sharp crack. The door swung wide, revealing a narrow maintenance alcove lit by a single buzzing strip light. Inside, mounted against the wall, sat a small network switch. Its indicator lights pulsed rapidly, far faster than they should have. At the same time, Grant's polished shoe slid on the damp floor. He lurched sideways, phone flying from his hand. It struck the open panel, the screen flashing as it connected to something it was never meant to touch. An alarm chirped. Once. Then again. Ethan stepped back instinctively, pulling the dog with him, heart pounding. His mind raced, assembling patterns faster than words. Inside the conference room, heads turned. Rachel stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. She stared at the open door, at the exposed hardware, at Grant Holloway struggling to regain his balance. "What is that?" she demanded. Grant flushed, anger giving way to something uglier. "This is sabotage," he barked. He pointed at Ethan. "He did this." Ethan met Rachel's eyes through the glass. He did not argue. He did not plead. He simply stood still. Rachel saw it then, the stillness, the restraint, the absence of panic. She had seen panic in boardrooms. She had seen guilt, too. This was neither. Owen Blake arrived moments later, breathless, sleeves already rolled. At 42, the head of IT carried exhaustion like a second skin. His glasses slid down his nose as he took in the scene. "What happened?" he asked. Rachel gestured sharply. "Explain that!" Owen crouched near the panel, eyes narrowing as he read the activity lights. His jaw tightened.
That shouldn't be here, he said slowly. This isn't logged. Grant cut in. We can deal with this later. We're on a deadline. Owen looked up, anger flaring. No! We deal with this now. Caleb stepped forward, voice calm as ever. Let's not overreact. This could be a contractor oversight. Ethan watched Caleb carefully. The way his gaze avoided the blinking lights.
The way his hands stayed clean. The dog shifted slightly, placing himself between Ethan and Grant without aggression. Rachel felt something settle in her chest. A choice. She looked at Ethan again, at the damp flannel, the worn boots, the service dog standing like a sentry. How did you know this mattered? She asked. Ethan hesitated. Years of silence pressed against his ribs. I noticed patterns, he said, and they were wrong. The hallway fell quiet. Outside, thunder cracked closer now. Rachel straightened. We pause the signing, she said firmly. Now. Grant stared at her, stunned. You can't be serious. I am, she replied, and security is locking this floor. Grant's face drained of color. Instant regret did not always come with handcuffs. Sometimes it came with the sudden understanding that power could slip. And once it did, there was no grabbing it back. What the walls remembered. Rain softened into a steady drizzle, mist clinging to the windows as if the night refused to let go. Inside Northline Harbor, the air grew heavier, thick with tension that no ventilation system could clear. Ethan Mercer stood just outside the Security Operations Center, red and black flannel drying slowly under artificial light. His German shepherd sat at his side, posture upright, eyes fixed forward. The black harness with white lettering remained untouched now, as if everyone had suddenly learned how to read. Service dog, do not pet. Ethan kept his hands loose at his sides, still, unthreatening. The habit of staying calm when every instinct urged movement had never left him. Inside the room, screens glowed with shifting lines of data. Network maps, access logs, timestamps scrolling faster than most eyes could track. Owen Blake leaned over a console, fingers moving with precision despite the tension tightening his shoulders. At 42, he had the look of a man who believed deeply in systems and who felt personally wounded when they failed. His glasses reflected the screen light, hiding his eyes, but not the set of his jaw. This isn't an accident, Owen said quietly. This is deliberate. Rachel Hart stood behind him, arms crossed, blazer discarded over the back of a chair. Without it, she looked younger, less armored. Her face was composed, but her mind raced through consequences she had spent years trying to avoid. Grant Holloway hovered near the doorway, silent now. The earlier fire had burned out, leaving behind something colder. Calculation. Fear. He said nothing, but his foot tapped once, then stopped when Rachel glanced his way. Caleb Price stood apart from them, hands folded neatly in front of him. His expression was attentive, concerned, exactly as it always was. If tension could wear a mask, it would look like Caleb. Show me the timeline, Rachel said. Owen brought it up, a clean line fractured by anomalies. Late-night access. Repeated connections routed through a guest network that should have been isolated. Each entry aligned too neatly to be coincidence. These credentials, Owen said, highlighting an identifier. They belong to a contractor badge that should have expired months ago. Rachel frowned. Who still has access to that badge? Owen hesitated. His eyes flicked just briefly toward Caleb. Caleb noticed. He smiled faintly, almost apologetic. That badge was issued during the early integration tests. I kept track of it to make sure nothing slipped through. Grant seized on the explanation. There, oversight. We fix it and move on. Ethan shifted his weight slightly. His left leg protested, a dull reminder of old injuries and older choices. He did not speak. Rachel watched him from the corner of her eye. She had noticed his silence earlier, how he did not rush to defend himself when accused, how his gaze moved not to people, but to systems. "Mr. Mercer," she said, turning fully toward him, "you said you noticed patterns." Ethan met her eyes. He saw intelligence there, fatigue, and something else. Doubt. "Yes," he said. "What kind of patterns?" Ethan took a breath. He thought of Noah asleep in their small apartment, of promises made quietly, without witnesses. "The kind that repeat when someone thinks no one is watching," he said. Traffic spikes at the same hour, lights blinking out of rhythm, doors opening when they shouldn't. Grant scoffed softly. "You expect us to believe a janitor caught what our IT team missed?" Ethan did not look at him. Owen straightened slowly. "Actually," he said, voice tight, "the activity he's describing matches what I'm seeing now." Caleb's fingers tightened, just slightly, then relaxed. Rachel felt the shift. It was subtle, but it was real. She turned back to the screens. "Pull the executive workstation logs," she ordered. Owen complied. The data populated quickly. File hashes, background processes. One line caught his attention. His breath caught. "There's an agent running here," he said, "disguised as a driver update." Rachel's stomach dropped. "On my machine?" "Yes." The room went very still. Grant took a step back. "That's impossible. Her system is locked down." Ethan spoke before he could stop himself. "Locks only matter if you know where they are." Rachel closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked older and sharper. "Who installed the update?" she asked. Owen traced the metadata. His face drained of color. "It was approved under emergency protocol," he said. "Authorized by Caleb." All eyes turned. Caleb blinked just once. Surprise flickered across his face, then smoothed away. "I followed procedure," he said calmly. "The update was necessary for compatibility testing." Ethan watched him closely now. The calm was too precise, too practiced. The dog rose quietly to his feet, positioning himself closer to Ethan's leg. Rachel studied Caleb's face, searching for something she had missed for months. She thought of how often she had trusted his reassurances, how easily urgency had replaced caution. "Caleb," she said softly, "step away from the console." For the first time, hesitation crossed his features. Grant's voice cracked. "Rachel, this is getting out of hand." "No," she said. "This is coming into focus." Security moved in, slow and deliberate. Caleb's shoulders slumped just a fraction. Ethan exhaled, not in relief, in sorrow. He had seen this before. Men who believed they were smarter than the system. Men who forgot that systems, like people, remembered. Rachel turned to Ethan again. "You could have stayed silent," she said. "Why didn't you?" Ethan looked down at the dog, then back at her. "Because silence would have been easier," he said. "And easier isn't always right." Outside, the rain finally began to ease. Inside Northline Harbor, the walls had started to speak when the system fought back. Rain returned without warning, heavier now, drumming against the building like a countdown no one had authorized. Wind pressed smoke-gray clouds low over Seattle, trapping the city in a breath it could not release. The first alarm sounded at 12:47 a.m. It was not loud at first, just a sharp electronic chirp that cut through the hum of servers like a needle through fabric. Ethan Mercer felt it in his bones. He stood in the security corridor, red and black flannel still damp, the fabric darkened along the cuffs. His German shepherd rose instantly at his side, muscles coiling beneath the black harness. Service dog, do not pet. The dog's ears tilted forward, nose lifting. Smoke carried information long before flames did. Inside the operations center, Owen Blake's head snapped up. "Temperature spike," he said, fingers flying. "Server room C, that shouldn't be happening." Rachel Hart was already moving. The calm she had forced onto herself in the last hour cracked, replaced by urgency sharpened through responsibility. "Lock down external access," she ordered. "Now!" Across the room, Caleb Price stood frozen between two security officers. His earlier composure had thinned. Sweat beaded at his hairline, eyes darting to the monitors. Then, suddenly, everything accelerated. A cascade of alerts spilled across the screens. Data wipes, forced overwrites. The system was eating itself. "He triggered a wiper," Owen said, disbelief turning to anger. "He's trying to erase evidence." Rachel swore under her breath. "Where?" "Room C," Owen repeated. "Backup cluster." Rachel's chest tightened. Cleardrop's last clean copy. She was already running. The corridor lights flickered as she sprinted toward the server wing. Her heels slipped once on the polished floor, but she caught herself, breath burning, heart pounding with a realization she could no longer ignore. If that data burned, the company burned with it. Ethan followed without hesitation. He did not announce himself, did not ask permission. He moved because movement was what remained when thinking ran out. The limp in his left leg flared as he pushed harder, pain slicing up through muscle and memory. He ignored it. Pain was information, not command. The dog ran at heel, controlled, focused. Smoke thickened as they reached the security door to server room C. Heat radiated through the reinforced panel. The electronic lock flashed red. Rachel grabbed the handle and yanked. It did not move. "Override!" she snapped into her comm. "No response," Owen's voice crackled back. "The system defaulted to sealed." Rachel stared at the door, realization crashing down. The safety protocol meant to contain fire was now trapping everything inside, including the backup drives, including anyone who went in. Ethan stepped forward, eyes scanning the frame. Years of maintenance rounds had taught him what blueprints never showed. "Manual release," he said. His voice was steady, almost gentle. He pulled his keyring free. Not flashy, not special, just a collection of worn tools used by someone who knew buildings better than people. The dog pressed close, tail low, ready. Ethan popped the emergency cover and jammed the lever hard to the right. Metal screamed in protest. The lock disengaged with a reluctant thunk. Heat blasted outward. "Stay back," Ethan said. Rachel did not listen. She slipped past him into the smoke, coughing as sprinklers detonated overhead. Water rained down in sheets, hissing against overheated metal. Ethan cursed and followed. Inside, visibility dropped to nothing. Red lights blinked through the haze like dying stars. The roar of the wiper program screamed from the racks, fans spinning beyond tolerance. Rachel moved straight toward the primary server bay. Ethan grabbed her arm. Not that one. She looked at him, eyes wide, mascara streaking down her cheeks. That's the main storage. It's already corrupted, he said. There's a failsafe. He yanked her toward a narrower aisle. The dog moved ahead of them, nose low, steering them away from a section where sparks danced along a cable tray. A beam crashed down behind them, missing by inches. Ethan's lungs burned. His legs screamed. But his mind was clear. There. A small rack marked with a red survivor label. An offline backup, installed quietly by Owen months ago and never advertised. Rachel saw it and felt hope crash into fear. Together, they wrenched the drive free. It was heavier than it looked. Water streamed down their arms. Smoke clawed at their throats. Now! Ethan shouted. They staggered toward the exit as the fire suppression foam erupted behind them, swallowing the racks whole. The dog barked once, sharp and commanding, urging them forward. They burst into the hallway, collapsing onto the floor as alarms wailed and emergency lights painted everything in red. Owen appeared seconds later, face white, eyes locking onto the drive in Ethan's hands. You got it, he breathed. Rachel stared at the dripping hardware like it was something sacred. Across the corridor, Caleb Price screamed as security pinned him to the floor. The wiper had failed to erase everything. His final move had only accelerated his fall. Ethan leaned back against the wall, chest heaving. His flannel clung to him now, soaked through. The dog pressed against his leg, grounding him. Rachel knelt beside him, voice shaking. You saved it. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, not in triumph, in exhaustion. I just opened a door, he said. The system did the rest. Rachel looked at him, really looked this time, not as staff, not as background, as the one person who had run toward the fire. Outside, rain hammered the building harder, washing smoke from the air. Inside, the lie had burned itself out, the quiet after the storm. Morning arrived slowly, filtered through thinning clouds. Rain loosened its grip on Seattle, leaving the streets rinsed clean and the sky pale, as if the city itself were trying again. Ethan Mercer stood on the rooftop terrace of Northline Harbor, red and black flannel drying in the cool air. His German shepherd sat at his side, calm now, black harness dark with moisture, white lettering still clear. Service dog. Do not pet. Below them, emergency lights had gone dark. Sirens faded into distance. What remained was the hum of a building that had survived itself. Rachel Hart stepped out onto the terrace, hair pulled back hastily, blazer gone. She looked smaller without it, tired. Human. The kind of tired that came after realizing how close everything had come to breaking. They took him away an hour ago, she said, voice low. Caleb confessed when the evidence was laid out. He didn't fight it. Ethan nodded once. He had seen that ending before. Not the handcuffs. The moment before them. The moment when a person finally understood that cleverness did not equal immunity. Behind Rachel, Grant Holloway lingered near the door. His suit was rumpled now, the sharp edges dulled. The man who had once filled rooms with certainty looked diminished, like a structure stripped to its beams. He cleared his throat. Mr. Mercer. Ethan turned slowly. His left leg protested, but he kept his posture easy. The dog remained still, eyes alert but neutral. Grant swallowed. I owe you an apology. The words came out stiff, practiced, but the pause that followed was not. I was wrong, Grant continued. About you. About how I treated you. That night, I thought power meant control. Turns out it just meant I had more to lose. Ethan studied him. He felt no triumph, only a dull ache where anger might have been. I didn't come here to teach lessons, Ethan said. I came to do my job. Grant nodded, shame coloring his face. The board is meeting in an hour, he said. I won't be in that room. Rachel watched the exchange in silence. When Grant left, she exhaled as if something heavy had finally been set down. I accepted his resignation, she said. It wasn't a punishment. It was a consequence. Ethan appreciated the distinction. They stood together for a moment, listening to the city wake. Gulls cried somewhere beyond the buildings. Traffic resumed its rhythm. Rachel turned to him. I want you to lead the rebuild. Ethan did not answer right away. She continued, choosing her words carefully. Not as a consultant, as head of security resilience. Full authority. Your conditions. Ethan's chest tightened. He thought of Noah waiting for the school bus, of homework spread across the kitchen table, of promises whispered into the dark. I can't live here, he said quietly. Not the hours you keep. Not the way this place eats people. Rachel nodded. Flexible schedule. Remote work when it makes sense. And a scholarship fund for your son. STEM. No strings. The dog shifted slightly, tail brushing the ground. Ethan looked at the harness, then back at her. This isn't charity. No, Rachel said. It's trust. I've spent too long trusting titles. I need someone who will tell me when I'm wrong. Ethan felt the weight of it settle. Not the job, the responsibility. I'll think about it, he said. That afternoon, Rachel drove to Queens. Ethan's apartment was modest, clean. Sunlight poured in through wide windows. The walls were covered with drawings taped at uneven angles. Robots, circuits, water droplets sketched in blue and green. Noah Mercer stood barefoot on the living room rug, dark hair falling into curious eyes. He looked at Rachel, then at his father. You're the lady from the building, he said. Rachel smiled. I am. Noah pointed to a drawing taped to the fridge. A single drop of water split into thin streams of lines and symbols. That's how secrets move, he said. My dad says everything leaves a trace. Rachel crouched to his level. Your dad is right. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Ethan and Rachel sat at the small kitchen table with mugs of cooling coffee. The city hummed softly outside. My sorry, Rachel said, for not seeing you, for almost letting everything fall apart. Ethan shook his head. You stopped it. Because you forced me to look, she replied. He thought of the fire, of the door opening, of the choice to run in instead of away. I'll take the job, he said at last, on one condition. Rachel leaned forward. Name it. We build systems that expect failure, Ethan said. Not perfect walls, traces, alerts, honesty. Rachel smiled. Water-themed security architecture, she said. Every flow marked, every breach visible. A year later, Project Cleardrop launched without fanfare. The city's water ran cleaner, safer. At Northline Harbor, systems no longer hid their scars. They learned from them. On the rooftop, after a quiet presentation, Rachel found Ethan watching the city lights with his dog at his side. You broke everything to save it, she said. Ethan smiled faintly. Sometimes that's what it takes. The rain began again, light and steady, washing the glass towers clean. Below them, the city reflected itself in every drop, carrying truth forward. Sometimes the miracle is not loud. It does not come with thunder or sudden wealth. Sometimes the miracle is a quiet moment when someone chooses what is right, even when no one is watching. Faith often works that way. God does not always stop the storm. Sometimes He places the right person in the storm, at the exact moment it matters most. In daily life, we face the same choice Ethan faced. Stay silent to stay safe, or speak up to stay honest. Trust power or trust character. Do what is easy or do what is right. This story reminds us that God sees the invisible, the quiet worker, the faithful parent, the person who keeps promises when no one is counting. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment and tell us what lesson stayed with you. Subscribe for more stories of faith, justice, and quiet courage. May God bless you and keep you safe.